My in-laws called me broke for bringing a simple ring, so I canceled the wedding, took my savings, and left them all embarrassed in front of everyone. I'm a 29-year-old guy who genuinely believed I'd found the kind of love that movies try to replicate. Hannah and I met at a friend's New Year's party 3 years ago. She was magnetic, funny, clever, the kind of woman who made you feel seen even in a crowded room. We weren't flashy. We didn't have candlelit dinners every weekend or big anniversary surprises, but we had the kind of bond I thought was real. Deep talks, inside jokes, quiet mornings with coffee, and no need to impress anyone. I truly believed she loved me for who I was, so when I bought the ring, I wasn't thinking about diamonds or Instagram-worthy moments. I was thinking about her favorite poem, how it talked about love being quiet and constant, like a candle in the dark. I chose a modest but meaningful ring with a tiny sapphire in the center because she once told me that sapphires reminded her of the ocean, and that's where we first kissed. Proposed to her in the park where we had our first date. It was just us. No crowd, no photographer. I was nervous, shaking, heart pounding. When I pulled out the ring, she gasped, but not the way I expected. She smiled, said yes, hugged me tightly. But her eyes didn't light up. Not really. She asked me to take a selfie, right away. Then another. Then she took one alone, holding up the ring. She posted it within 5 minutes. The caption was perfect, the hashtags even better. But I couldn't shake the weird hollowness in her tone as she said, "We're officially engaged!" to her story, like she was reciting a line. I told myself I was overthinking it, that maybe I was just nervous too. But that ring would end up revealing everything I refused to see. A week after the proposal, Hannah suggested we visit her parents to celebrate. I was nervous. I'd only met them a handful of times, and while they were polite, there was always a thin layer of judgment in their tone when they spoke to me. They came from money, generational old money type of wealth. I didn't. I grew up working class. My dad was a mechanic. My mom cleaned houses, and I worked in tech, not flashy but stable. Good job, good benefits, but apparently not good enough. The moment we walked into their oversized foyer, Hannah's mother pulled her into the other room without even saying hello to me. I heard muffled voices and then, clear as day, her mom's voice hissed, "Is that the ring he gave you?" Hannah didn't respond. She just let her mom drag her into the living room where her father and 2 sisters were waiting. I stepped in after a beat, smiling, trying to play it cool. Her dad didn't even get up, just looked at me over his glasses and said, "You must be proud of that little rock, huh?" Her sisters snickered like they were in on some inside joke. I looked at Hannah. She didn't say anything. Her mom sat down and waved her hand toward my ring box like it was a science experiment. "Let's see it again," she said flatly. Hannah awkwardly held up her hand, and her mom actually squinted, then said, "Is that from a department store? Or Etsy?" They all laughed. I stood there, cheeks burning, heart in my throat. I waited for Hannah to say something, to defend me, defend the gesture, defend us. She didn't. She just gave me a weak smile like, "Please don't make this a thing," but it was already a thing. It was the moment I realized I wasn't just proposing to a woman. I was signing up to be judged, mocked and humiliated by an entire family, and it was only the beginning. 2 days after the ring incident, Hannah's mom texted me a PDF of potential venues with 5-star resorts and castle-like ballrooms, all of them wildly out of my budget. I stared at the price tags like they were jokes. One venue required a $10,000 non-refundable deposit. I hadn't even paid off my car yet. I showed Hannah and laughed, hoping she'd laugh too. "Your mom's trolling me, right?" I asked. But she just looked up from her phone and said, "She means well. It's just her taste." I told her we couldn't afford those places, and she just shrugged and said, "They'll cover most of it. You just need to handle your suit, the officiant, and maybe the honeymoon." Maybe the honeymoon? When did I become a guest at my own wedding? Every day brought a new update from her mom. Flower arrangements, monogrammed menus, a string quartet for cocktail hour. All CC'd to Hannah, who never once questioned it. I tried bringing up the budget, gently at first. "Hey babe, I was thinking we could maybe scale back a bit. Do something smaller, more us?" Her response, "It's one day. Don't you want to make it magical?" I did want magic, but not the kind that buried me in debt for people who laughed at my ring. I began to feel invisible. Every decision was made without me, and every concern I raised made me look like the problem. Her dad even joked one night, "If you can't afford a wedding, how do you expect to afford a family?" They all laughed. Again, I wasn't just losing control. I was losing myself in this process. Bit by bit, and Hannah, the woman I loved, wasn't pulling me back. She was watching me drown and handing her mom another rope. The deeper we got into wedding planning, the more I realized this wasn't a merger of two families, it was a hostile takeover. Hannah's parents decided to host a family dinner so everyone could meet before the formal engagement party. I was excited for my folks to finally get to know hers, naively hoping that maybe some warmth would break through the ice. My mom even spent the whole day cooking a tray of her famous stuffed peppers, wanting to bring something homemade. She said food is love, and carefully wrapped them with foil like she was carrying treasure. When we arrived, her mom opened the door and didn't even greet my parents properly. She looked down at the tray in my mom's hands and said, "Oh, you didn't have to bring anything. We already had everything catered." She didn't even bother to take it inside, just handed it off to a maid and walked away like it was garbage. I watched the hope drain from my mom's face. Dinner wasn't better. My dad tried to crack a few jokes, the way he always does when he's nervous. Her sisters rolled their eyes. Her father kept steering the conversation toward money, asking my dad what he used to do before retiring, then clarifying how he built his own company from nothing. Unlike some folks, it wasn't even subtle. At one point, Hannah's mom leaned toward me and whispered, "Your mother means well. She just doesn't really understand. Upscale events, does she?" I stared at her in disbelief. My mom, who worked night shifts for years so I could go to college. My mom, who smiled through the entire dinner despite being humiliated. Afterward, in the car, my mom held it together until we pulled into our driveway. Then she broke down. "And Hannah?" She said, "They're just stressed. Don't take it so personally," but how could I not? The photo shoot was her mother's idea. Of course it was. She booked a luxury vineyard an hour outside the city, complete with a stylist, makeup artist, and photographer who specialized in high-end engagements. Hannah was thrilled, giddy even. "It's just for fun," she kept saying, to celebrate us. But nothing about it felt like us. From the moment we arrived, I felt like a prop in someone else's fantasy. They dressed us in rented designer clothes, me in a suit that cost more than my entire wardrobe, her in a gown that didn't even look like something she'd wear. Hannah's mom handed her a huge ring box and said, "Wear this one for the photos." "It photographs better," I froze. "What?" Her mom waved it off. "It's just for the shoot, honey. No one wants to zoom in on a pebble." I looked at Hannah, waiting for her to push back, to defend the ring I gave her, the one I saved for, chose for her, poured meaning into. Instead, she slipped it on her finger like it meant nothing. Like I meant nothing. The photographer told us to look in love, to laugh like it was spontaneous. But my smile felt carved into my face with a knife. Every flash felt like a betrayal. I was watching the person I loved pose with someone else's fantasy of what our love should look like. When we got home, I asked her if she even liked the ring I gave her. She paused. "Too long, it's sweet," she said. "But you know my family has certain expectations." That night, I took the ring out of her jewelry box and just stared at it. Tiny, simple, honest. Everything her world wasn't. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. We were lying in bed, and she fell asleep with her phone still open on Instagram. I reached to plug it in for her, and a message popped up, just enough of the preview to catch my eye. It was from her cousin, Liv. The message read, "Girl, you better upgrade before you get stuck with Mr. Budget Boy forever." My heart stuttered. I hesitated, then tapped. I shouldn't have. But I did. Their chat was a goldmine of quiet daggers. Weeks of messages I wasn't supposed to see. Screenshots of rings her friends got. Memes about cheap men. Complaints about how I still drive a car from 2012. And jokes about how my parents probably eat casserole at holidays. Stuff I'd laughed with her about, now weaponized behind my back. The worst was a voice note. Her cousin said, "I still can't believe he gave you that sad little ring. What are you gonna do, show your kids that one day?" And Hannah replied, voice casual, amused, "Don't worry, I've got backup plans. I'm just letting this play out." That sentence, it broke something in me. Not loud, not violent, just clean. I sat there in the dark next to her, hearing her breathe softly in her sleep like nothing was wrong. Like the life we were building wasn't a performance for her. Like I wasn't a placeholder for something shinier. I didn't sleep that night. Just laid there, staring at the ceiling, playing her voice over and over in my head. Letting this play out. She was planning the wedding. I was planning forever. She was planning an exit. I was planning a life. That was the night I realized I wasn't engaged to someone who loved me. I was engaged to someone who saw me as an investment she regretted. After that night, something shifted in me. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed to be sure I wasn't acting out of raw emotion. I wanted one more test, something that would force the truth out without needing to ask. So a few days later, while we were having dinner, I brought up the idea of a prenup. Not because I had millions, I didn't, but I had my grandfather's house. It wasn't much, but it was paid off, and it held my childhood, my dad's tools in the garage, my mother's laughter in the walls. That house meant something. I said it gently. Hey, I was thinking, maybe we should do a prenup. Just something simple. It protects us both, and I want to make sure the house stays in my family. Hannah's face went still. Completely still. Then came the laugh. Cold. Disbelieving. A prenup? Seriously? She scoffed. You don't even have enough to warrant one, I blinked. It's not about money. It's about security. For both of us. She pushed her plate away and crossed her arms. This is so insulting. You're already planning for us to fail? Is that what this is? Before I could answer, her phone lit up, her mom calling. She picked it up, stormed into the other room, and a minute later I heard her yelling, "He wants a prenup over that old house!" Her dad got involved the next day. He called me, said I was disrespecting the family, that they never needed legal documents to trust their marriages. And Hannah? She acted like I had broken some sacred vow by trying to protect what little I had left. That's when I knew. They didn't want love. They wanted leverage. After the prenup debacle, I stopped pretending everything was fine. I didn't announce it. I just started pulling back. Skipped a few of the wedding planning meetings. Let unanswered texts sit a little longer. Started working late. Really working late. And spending my weekends alone, driving to quiet places where no one expected anything from me. I didn't know what I was building yet, but I knew it wasn't this life they were designing around me. The first person to notice was her mom. She called one morning while I was at work, her voice sharp and sweet like poison candy. Is everything all right? You seem distant, she said. I've been busy, I replied, keeping it short. Well, she sighed, Hannah's under a lot of stress. You not showing up makes it worse. Then Hannah started poking. Are you getting cold feet? She asked over takeout one night. No, I lied. Just tired. She reached for my hand, almost like the old days. But her touch didn't feel like comfort, it felt like strategy. I kept the smile. I kept the calm. But behind the scenes, I started documenting everything. Texts, receipts, dates. I moved money into a separate account. I made backup copies of anything I'd paid for. Quiet steps. Careful steps because I wasn't going to explode, I was going to exit. The only thing more dangerous than someone who's angry is someone who's done, and I was getting close. Closer than they realized. But first, I needed to see just how far they'd go to humiliate me before I finally let go. The rehearsal. Dinner was supposed to be a celebration. It felt like a setup. Her parents booked out a fancy rooftop restaurant downtown with gold-trimmed menus and signature cocktails named after us, the Hannah Sparkle and the Budget Boy Bourbon. I thought it was a joke. Turns out it was, just not the kind you laugh at. My parents were seated in the farthest corner of the room, next to the restroom. I noticed it the second we walked in. Everyone else was at the long central table, beautifully arranged, full of her family, extended cousins, business partners, and their spouses. My mom whispered, "Should we move?" And I had to smile through clenched teeth and say, "No, it's fine. It wasn't fine." Midway through the dinner, her uncle stood up to give a toast. He'd been drinking, too much, too fast. He clinked his glass and shouted, "To Hannah!" for choosing love over luxury. Even if her man shops at thrift stores, laughter. Actual applause. Then came the second jab. And let's all pray their kids inherit her taste in jewelry, not his. Everyone laughed again. Everyone but me and my parents. I looked at Hannah. She was laughing. Not nervously. Not awkwardly. Genuinely laughing. I felt my mother's hand gently touch my elbow. Her quiet way of saying, "Let's go." but I didn't move. I needed to see if anyone in that room would say, "Hey, this isn't okay." No one did. After the dinner, Hannah hugged me and said, "Don't be so sensitive. That's just how my family jokes." But I wasn't upset about the jokes. I was devastated that she laughed with them. And that night, I stopped seeing her as the woman I wanted to marry and started seeing her as the reason I wouldn't. The morning of the wedding, I woke up before sunrise. I sat at the edge of the hotel bed, still in my clothes from the night before, staring at the wall like it could tell me what to do. The ring box was on the nightstand, closed, quiet, heavy in the way things feel when they're full of endings. I looked over at Hannah, still asleep, curled up like nothing in the world was wrong. And maybe for her, nothing was wrong. She had her dress, her dream venue, her 100 guests, her champagne toast and her father's approval. What she didn't have was me, not anymore. I wrote her a note. Nothing dramatic. No long letter. Just 12 words on hotel stationery. Don't bother calling. I wish you well, but I deserve better. I took a deep breath, grabbed my small bag, and walked out. I canceled every vendor I had personally booked and paid for. Photographer, DJ, limo. The coordinator tried to talk me out of it. I said, "Plans have changed." I texted my parents and asked them not to come. "Please," I said, "don't ask questions. Just trust me." By noon, I was 2 hours outside the city, sitting at a diner, drinking bad coffee, watching the chaos unfold through texts from mutual friends. The wedding didn't happen. The guests were stunned. The champagne was still chilling. The bride was crying, not for love lost, but for spectacle ruined. Hannah's mother tried calling me 15 times. Then her father. Then her sister. I didn't answer, because silence is its own kind of message. And sometimes, not showing up is the loudest thing you can do. The backlash hit within hours. By sunset, I had a dozen missed calls and a flood of texts, some confused, some furious, all assuming I owed them something. Hannah's dad left a voicemail calling me a coward. Her sister DM'd me saying I humiliated their family name. And Hannah? She posted a black and white photo of her bouquet with the caption, "Some people say forever. Others run. They wanted the world to think I was unstable, cold, that I just cracked under pressure, but I didn't run. I chose peace. I didn't scream. I didn't trash anyone online. I didn't expose her texts or the voice messages or the mocking group chats I had saved. I could have, but I didn't. I just vanished. I moved out of our apartment that same weekend. I had already packed a few essentials beforehand, just in case. Left the keys on the kitchen counter with a note that read, "Thank you for the lessons." The hardest part was texting my mom. I told her I was okay, and she cried, not because the wedding was off, but because she knew I had been carrying the weight of this alone. She told me, "You walked away with your dignity. That's a wedding gift they'll never understand. People talk a lot about grand gestures, big exits, explosive confrontations, but sometimes the real power is in walking away quietly, knowing the truth doesn't need to be screamed to be heard." They threw a tantrum in public. I reclaimed my life in silence, and that silence felt more like freedom than anything they'd ever given me. 6 months later, I was living in a smaller city, working remotely, and finally breathing again. It's strange how silence can feel so loud at first, how the absence of chaos makes you confront the quiet inside yourself. I spent weeks wondering if I'd made the right decision, if walking away meant I gave up too easily, if maybe, just maybe, love was supposed to hurt a little. But then something shifted. I started sleeping through the night. My jaw unclenched. I could look at my phone without a pit forming in my stomach. My thoughts didn't orbit around proving my worth anymore. They settled into something simpler. Peace. One afternoon, I walked past a small local jewelry store. I almost didn't go in, but something in the window caught my eye. A plain silver band. Nothing flashy, just honest. I stepped inside, tried it on, and it fit perfectly. I asked the owner if they could engrave something. 3 days later, I picked it up. Inside, it read, "Enough." It wasn't a reminder of bitterness or heartbreak. It was a promise to myself that I didn't need to shrink to be loved, that I wouldn't measure my value by someone else's expectations, that I, as I was, would always be enough. I wear that ring on my right hand. It's not a symbol of loss. It's a symbol of returning to who I was before I let someone else's standards define my worth. Sometimes I think about that wedding. The table placements. The dress she never wore. The guests left holding champagne flutes and unanswered questions. But mostly, I think about the version of me that almost stayed, and how proud I am that he didn't, because in the end, the best wedding I ever planned was the one I never showed up to.